Welcome to episode 341 of the DFO Rundown, brought to you by Bet365. Download the app today and use the promo code NATION, NATION, to get on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We got Thursday night football, busy night in the National Hockey League, lots to play with at Bet365. I'm Jason Greger. We welcome in Frank Saravalli, fresh back off of trip to now is it you in Disneyland, Disney World, and one's on the east, one's on the west. How was it, Frank? You survived? There's no Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah, survived barely. No, it was nice to get away for a couple days, even though the phone was never really far away with the Eurocheck trade, the Four Nations face-off rosters, a lot of stuff happening over the last few days, but it was nice to break away from the routine and spend some family time.
Are you a ride guy?
I am a ride guy if I can fit in it.
Okay.
Yeah. If we can get the lap belt down, then I'm in.
So what was your favorite ride?
So they so we went to Disneyland in California and they reimagined the Tower of Terror, and it's now part of the Avengers. I'm going to botch the name. It's not Rise of the Resistance. I think that's Star Wars. Something else. Anyway, whatever it was, they reimagined the Tower of Terror, the elevator ride, and it was the same kind of thing, but it was with a totally different theme and vibe, and it was awesome. And by the way, is
this like a drop where you're on the 15th floor and it just drops down to the first floor?
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. In the Tower of Terror, it's like the 13th floor and you go down to the first, but then it kind of keeps going up and down. And the best part is my kids are kind of afraid of rides, and we I don't know, I want to say we tricked them into going on that one, but they were like, we're not going on that one. It's the Tower of Terror. We're like, no, guys, they redid it. It's not like that anymore. And then we got in there, and as we were getting buckled in, my daughter, who's 8, we're in a small little elevator thing of maybe like 20 people on the ride with you. And the host, as you're getting buckled in, she goes, does anyone have any questions? And, they're trying to be spooky or whatever. And my daughter, it's real dark. And she goes, excuse me, does this drop? And the lady just goes, yes, and slams the door. And she just starts bawling. Everyone on the ride is laughing. Anyway, we have some photos of her just basically tucked into my armpit during the ride.
Oh, yeah. So that's when she gives you a nut shot later on. Is like, screw you, Dad.
Yeah, well, yeah, trust me. Yeah. That definitely happened as soon as we left.
Oh, yeah. Tricking your kids. No, it's not. It's a great ride.
It's not scary.
It's like that one video guy who runs like one of those rides. And, he's like, hey, just wait, your shoulder strap isn't in. I don't know if you ever watched that video. And then so people kind of relax, and then he hits the button and they're just freaking out. And it's similar, like one of those drops. So it's hilarious. That guy's just screwing over, just mind screwing everybody. It's hilarious.
So you've never been?
I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World in my life. I went to Six Flags when I was
count.
Oh, buddy, the roller coasters were unreal. Like
the rides are legit, but it's not anywhere close to the same thing.
Yeah, well, dude, I was 19. Like I didn't need to go meet Mickey and Donald at that point. And hey, so that's great. But no, I'm a big Disney fan of the characters, but I've never been to Disneyland. My son just turned 11 this week, and so I think if we got to go now.
Yeah, happy birthday, Bex.
Yeah. So there you go. Let's get to Four Nations. It's always, interesting. Sweden, Finland, US and Canada announced their rosters. And obviously, there's going to be, some who aren't on it, and people get freaked out about it. So I'm not really, we'll get into that maybe later on. But to me, it's more so, how many changes are we going to see between now and then? Because let's be real, unfortunately there's going to be some guys being injured, and I'm just curious how many you think are going, and we don't have to name the players, but like there's some guys, and I'll say this, Frank, let's say there's a injury to US forward, US defense. Let's start there. Who do you think would be your first addition if there's an injury to a forward and then a defenseman?
Okay. So if there's an injury to a forward, I think you'd have to look at Tage Thompson.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty big reach to go with Brock Nelson over Tage Thompson. I understand why they did it. They feel like he's a more defensively responsible player. Obviously, if he ends up playing center, is a way better guy in the dot. But I would have personally gone with Tage Thompson over Brock Nelson.
Okay, so Tage would be your first guy. What about a D-man?
Depends which hand they shoot with. To me, I don't think you can just pick any random defenseman. If it's a right shot guy, I'm probably going with Brett Pesce. If it's a left shot guy, I'm probably going Alex Vlasic.
That's okay. The Tage Thompson was the biggest, I thought, of all the four teams. I think Tage Thompson might have been the biggest surprise for me. To be honest, I thought it's a good guy. And hey, I get that they build their teams for all different reasons, and that's fine. But man, such a big body, skates well, can shoot the puck. I'd love to have seen him there. For Team Canada, if there's a forward that goes down, to me, it's Zach Hyman all day. Like, it's funny. Team Canada's roster seems like their goaltenders were picked on what you've done in the past, but then they didn't do the same for their forwards. And that was a bit surprising to me. I get that Zach Hyman has been banged up and didn't have the start to the season he wanted, but over the last 3 years, he's got the fifth most goals of any Canadian forward. Like, he's been a pretty good player.
Don't you think that there was a lot of bias that went in? I mean, look, there's always bias in any selection process, but it felt like there was a healthy amount of just, hey, this is my own team bias when you're selecting Colton Parayko and Jordan Binnington. And then there's also a healthy amount of recency bias. Like, oh God, yeah. And I think, hey, the team bias, Frank, we can go back, that's always been there, right? You go, Glenn Sather had, I think, 8 Oilers in the 80s. Now they were a great team, but did they have 8 of them? Probably not. But in the whole league, people freaked out when Bob Clark named Eric Lindros the captain. There's always been, and that's to me kind of the advantage. Like, of course, you want it to try, even though you'll say you don't. Subconsciously, you're like, yeah, hey, let's have it benefit our guys to be in a massive game. And it's not like Colton Parayko is so out of his realm. Like, this is not the minor hockey league coach whose kid's a Division 3 player or Tier 3, and he's got him on the Tier 1 team, right? Like, it's not that much of a gap. I actually agree with the Parayko one. Like, I'm okay with Parayko over Bouchard. I am. Because I think Parayko is a way better defender than Bouchard is. They don't need Evan Bouchard to come in and run the power play. They've already got that covered. Yeah, you're going to have 2 power plays, though, aren't you? Do you think the first unit's going to play a minute and a half? Yeah, I do. I think it's going to play like a minute and 40 seconds. Really? So who's going to be who's Canada's power play? McDavid, McKinnon, who else? Makar. Yeah, so if you need someone else to run the power play, like, you can pick anyone. You could pick Alex Pietrangelo to play the last 20 seconds. Would that be a crime? Yeah, no, probably not. I do. Don't you think Parayko is a way better actual defender than Bouchard? Well, I guess they defend very different. There's no question about it. I just look at Evan Bouchard in the playoffs, been a pretty damn good defender. If you look at his Stanley Cup playoffs and the year before, he was very good defensively. Like, his offensive numbers are off the charts. So I think that's what everybody focuses on. I think Bouchard at times, he looks nonchalant. And I think that's why it's not just picked. Looks. He actually is nonchalant at times. Yeah. Like, there is a true lack of urgency, and it's not just appearance at times. And I'm not saying he would have that in 4 Nations, but I mean, Parayko has been a big driver in winning a Stanley Cup before. Yeah, Parayko to me is I look at last time Canada had a great team together. Parayko's Jay Bouwmeester. Skates well, big body, covers up a ton of space. Like, Parayko's huge. That's the thing I think that's a big advantage in his size. And Parayko's massive, and you cover up so much space, so it's harder to beat guys like that. But the one real, I think, error in recency bias is it's not Parayko over Bouchard. It's not selecting Zach Hyman.
Yeah,
That's
I would agree with you. Yeah, I had that as to me the one that I was surprised with the most. And I won't be like if there's a Canadian, and Mark Scheifele, by the way, I thought easily could have been close on that roster too. He's a pretty good player. But they seem to want to go with some younger guys. Was part of this, and I wonder if there's a little bit of 2006 where we're like we can't have all old guys. I don't know, but
no, I don't. There's no way you could do that. I don't think. I think you've got to put the best roster on the ice for 2025 and then deal with 2026 later. But I'm sorry. They're good. Obviously, we're splitting hairs at some point. They're really good players that were picked. And I really like both these players. But I'm not picking Travis Konechny or Seth Jarvis before Zach Hyman.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
That's like Konechny's had a really good year. What is he? I think he's got 4th or 5th most goals by Canadian. He's had his, he's an energy guy, plays tenacious. So I see what they want from him. But I agree with you that
Zach Hyman's the best forechecker in the NHL.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Well, and the other thing is he has continuity with Connor McDavid, which in a short tournament, you don't really have time to get continuity. So I think there's a value in that.
What are your thoughts on the rest of the Canada forward group?
Well, Scheifele was the other. Well, you know what, Cirelli, I had mentioned this a few weeks ago. I thought Cirelli for their 4th line center spot, I wasn't going to be surprised if he made the team, right? Now, keep in mind, he's got the advantage, him and Hagel. And I like Brandon Hagel. I've always have, going back to his WHL days. He's highly competitive. His pilot light, Frank, burns bright all the time. That's why he's in the NHL. That's why he's just continually got better. And so I really don't have an issue with Cirelli. He checks the boxes of winning a Stanley Cup. He plays. He's a guy who's comfortable in a bottom 6 role, no question. He can play there. He'll probably be their 4th line center, defensive zone responsibilities, blah, 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 blah. But in a tournament like this, like every line is good. So, you got to play against good players all the time. So I actually like the Cirelli pick, to be honest. I thought he was deserving of it.
Like, I'm not saying he's not deserving. Just
like you're saying him over Scheifele is the one that.
Yeah, I'd probably go Scheifele over Cirelli.
Yeah, Scheifele's a better offensive player, no question. I would agree there. I think Cirelli's probably a better. Like if you're saying you like Parayko over Bouchard because of defense, then Cirelli's probably in the same category over Scheifele.
Well, and that's how you can begin to get some insight on the thought process of what Team Canada was thinking.
Yeah, like he's obviously going to be one of their top penalty killers, I would think. So,
so you mentioned size though. I dove into the U.S. defense.
Yeah,
the average size of their defense is 6'1", and 2 of their top 4 defensemen are under 6 foot.
Oh, I know that. To me, that's the one concern about Team USA in this tournament.
How big of an issue do you think it's going to be?
I guess it depends. Like the playoffs, Frank, are, it's a series and you just bang everybody the whole time. I don't know. Now it depends. I remember now I know it's a different era, but
somebody clip that, please.
There's been some physical games before, right? When it's best on best. Like you got guys in here that everybody in the playoffs hits, right? We've seen it, right? You've got your star player suddenly who never hits is delivering body checks. So, but it's one game. And I don't know if it's as much of an issue in a 1 game final as it would be a 7 game, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that to me is the difference. So I think certain individual plays, it might be a factor, but I don't know if it would be as noticeable as we would in a 7-game series.
So Slavin and Hanifin are the 2 tallest guys at 6'3".
Now, but is you think Hanifin's in your top 4?
No, I don't. I'm saying he might be the 7th defenseman and is likely the 7th defenseman.
Right.
But that just further highlights how relatively small they are, especially compared to Canada. And is that blue line going to be big enough to defend against Canada? That's the question. How much are you relying on their puck moving to get them out of trouble and their skating? It's elite, but do you need one bigger guy in that group to push people around?
I think it's a fair question. And the question would be then, who's that guy? Who could have been that guy?
Yeah, and that's what
Seth
you're running
Jones?
wouldn't be for me. He's not overly,
Right.
he defends the same way the other guys do, which is by using his feet.
Right. Yeah. He covers more. He takes up more space because he's 6'4", right? Like that's
I
it.
think to be honest, if there was one Blackhawk defenseman that they were considering for Team USA or was on their radar, it was Vlasic more so than Jones.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? He's really emerged as a good young player for them.
What a
I
contract.
know there were some people that were, what about Sanheim? I've never heard him anywhere. He wasn't on anybody's radar beforehand. What do you make of the Sanheim?
Oh, I think there's lots of really good parts to Sanheim's game. He's someone that has size, is not afraid to play physical. I think in certain situations, especially relative to the rest of the tournament, his puck skills are somewhat limited compared to the other guys. But you don't need everyone to, case in point with Parayko, you don't need everyone to be a dangler in order to get the job done. That's just not what it is.
What about, were you surprised William Eklund, 23 points, didn't make Team Sweden?
Not really. Trivia question for you. Who is the only teenager to make the entire tournament?
Oh, Carlson.
Yes, Leo Carlson. He's almost 2 years younger than the next closest player in the tournament, which obviously if you're scoring at home, that means no Connor Bedard for Team Canada.
And he shouldn't have been there. Let's be honest. Connor
Agreed.
Bedard, to me, I never had him on my team in the summer, and he would have had to play lights out to get onto the team.
So essentially what you're talking about is that to make this team, you pretty much need to be a top 25 forward in the NHL. I'm not discounting Sweden and Finland, but just doing pure math. 13 on each team. You're basically looking at being a top 25 forward.
Well, in North America,
he hasn't been close to that.
No. Like I'll say this: the Finns, they don't have the depth, Frank, of the other ones. But man, I love some of their top, like Rantanen, Barkov. All like I wouldn't sleep on Finland. They're the one team that I think is a hard out because they always show up in these international tournaments. Like they always punch above their weight class. Like, they come in and I don't think there's any question. Like Joel Armia is a surprise to me that he's on that team, but that like their depth, that'll be a question mark. But like even Anton Lundell, he's a solid player on your third line. Like he's really good. They don't, Hakanpää makes the team. He's barely played. So that kind of shows you maybe they lack depth on the blue line. Obviously, you use Valimaki's on the team. So that's where it gets pretty thin. But man, I love their top end guys. And if Saros can stand on his head, then, in a one gamer, Frank, they could surprise you. I think they're going to be hard to they'll defend quite well as a group.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be taking any of these teams lightly by any stretch of the imagination. Now, just going back to USA for a second, one name that no one has really talked about, and I think it speaks to how tough his season has been relative to the others in his career. When you saw social media light up after the rosters were announced, I didn't see anyone really talking about Jason Robertson. All I saw was, hey, how come no Cole Caulfield? How come no, go through Tage Thompson? That was a big one that everyone wanted to talk about. How about Jake Sanderson? Can't believe he's not there. Or John Carlson. But no one really said much about Jason Robertson. And the fact that Team USA cut a 46-goal, 109-point player in the NHL, to me, that speaks to how far the U.S. has come. The fact that you can leave a player like that on the cutting room floor and no one even really blinks.
Well, no, you're right. And he's just had such a very quiet season. So maybe it's fitting, right? To how his season's gone for the Dallas Stars. Like you haven't noticed him even dominating a lot of games. Like what has he got? 5 goals? 6? I think 5. It's 5. 5, yeah. So I don't know. He's it's fair point, but based on this year, it wouldn't. But hey, fun trivia question for you, Frank. Who is the which American forward has the most goals who's not on the roster? Tied with Tage Thompson, I should say.
This season?
Yep.
Cole Caulfield?
No, he has 16. Tied with Tage Thompson for second. Steven Nosen. He has 13 goals again.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I know he's not making a team, but it's just he's at a real
I brought his name up a few weeks ago on the pod saying, should you consider someone like him? Because playing with skilled players is a skill. But this goes back to the recency bias point that we were making about Hyman and about Bouchard. Robertson, so since his breakout season in 21-22, so this is 3 1/4 seasons now.
Yeah.
Among American-born players, he's 5th in goals, 4th in points, 3rd in even strength points, and 4th in game-winning goals. I mean, you're leaving a good player off the team, and that's the exercise. Like, I know there's always good players left off. It's kind of mind-blowing to me that in this social media world we live in, I didn't hear anyone talk about him. Everyone was just like, yeah, okay, Jason Robertson gone.
Well, why do you think that is? Is it just because you think they have that much depth? Does he not have a big booster club in the US?
No, I think it's because he's really been quiet this season. He's a guy that played himself off of this roster. I think he was on it in the summer. And think about it. The other part of this is you want guys with big game experience that have gone on deep playoff runs. He's played in back-to-back conference finals.
Yeah.
That's why you see guys like Chris Kreider and Vincent Trocheck make this team over Cole Caulfield, no playoff experience. Tage Thompson, no playoff experience. Those things matter. It's not just, hey, is this guy more well-rounded? Hey, what does this guy bring at even strength? It's not just those things. It's also, how will he respond in the moment? Jason Robertson has 45 games of NHL playoff experience, and they've almost all been high leverage where he's been counted on in big moments.
Is Hellebuck the automatic starter? Is he played the majority of the games?
Yes. To me, and again, love Jake Ottinger, something would have to go wildly wrong for any other goalie to get 1 second of action in a 4-game tournament for me with Connor Hellebuck there.
Okay, so he's played all 4.
But the question is, who's going to be Team Canada's starter? And will it be the same guy the whole time?
Hey, I'll tell you right now. Look at the Canadian goalies. We will chart the stats from December 4th until February. And I would be willing to bet that those 3 guys numbers. It is the most unpredictable position on the team, no question. They went with Hill and Binnington, I guess, because they've had playoff success recently, right? Which is why it goes back to, well, if you did that for the goalie, but then you don't do it to your forwards, it seems odd, but whatever. That's what they did. And maybe they felt like there's no better options. Sam Montembeault to me is a pick for the future a little bit, because Cam Talbot has been the most consistent Canadian goaltender last year and this year. If you just look at all the numbers. And I think they made a big mistake on their goaltending. Yeah. Who would you have put?
I think it's really hard to deny Logan Thompson with the way that he's played this year, not being one of your 3.
Yeah, he's played pretty well. I think you could make the argument, Frank, the last time you had true best on best in 2014. I think they're going to rely on, we want to play a similar style of game. They didn't give up anything. That Olympics was,
they were stone cold killers.
Yeah.
Clinical.
You could have had any goaltender at that point. Now, they didn't score a lot. They weren't overly exciting, but they were clinical and not giving up anything. And part of me wonders if they're going to try to do that exact same this time. We'll see. I don't know if you can, but the game's changed. That's a decade ago, right? Like, it's a lot more offensive now. So we'll see. But I think Canada's goaltending, you could have lots of guys who are playing much better and much hotter in those 2 months. Like, trust me, don't be shocked if Stuart Skinner from December 4th through until February 4th has some of the best numbers of a Canadian goalie. Just don't be surprised, because he done, like last year, his first 7 starts, not good. From his 50 games under Chris Knobloch, most wins in the NHL, 4th in save percentage, 5th in goals against, 7th in saves above expected. He was really good for a long time. So I think that the position's volatile, number one, but of any country, Canada has the biggest question mark in goal. No, it's not even a debate.
But will it matter? And I was thinking about this the other day because someone asked me, is this US on social media? Someone asked, is this the best goalie trio that anyone's ever put in at one tournament with Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman? And I said, of course not. 1998 Olympics, Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, and the third guy was a guy that should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and Curtis Joseph.
Yeah.
How much did it help that Canadian team? You know where they finished in Nagano?
Yeah, 6th, 7th,
6th or 4th. Either way, not in the medals.
Yeah, they could. Dominic Hasek couldn't beat him, buddy. That's when they put a defenseman in the shootout. Woo-hoo, Mark Crawford, what are you doing? But yeah, that was that was the Hasek show. He was unreal. They did name Gretzky captain. It was a cluster of epic proportions if you look back on that, and it just shows you
especially
that
because Canada emerged through group play 3-0.
Yeah, like
they allowed 3 goals against. They were 12 goals for, 3 goals against in the 1998 Nagano Olympics. They allowed 1 goal against Kazakhstan in the quarters, so a total of 4 goals in 4 games. Then they get to the semis, only give up 2, of course, and lose to the Czechs in a shootout. So they really gave up 1. So they gave up 5 goals in 5 games. Goes to show you that your goaltending can be unbelievable and you still won't win.
Yeah, you got to score some goals, right? And it's will it matter? It's a fair question. If it gets into where if you're giving up some quality chances, then yeah, you're your goalie. But again, all he has to do is be good for one game, right? Like I don't think it'll hurt them in the qualifying round. I think they got enough. But whoever they face in the final, and if they make the final, I assume they will, but maybe they won't. In a 1 game off, yeah. But who's going to be the starter? I have no idea. Like, I don't think it's like Hellebuck, and I agree with you. Like, I think they might have to play 2 goalies in the first 3 games to find out who's going to be their goalie for the final.
Will we get any wink, wink, nod, nod? Hey, this guy's injured, but his numbers have been absolute hot garbage for 2 months.
Oh, wow. There's going to be somebody like, hey, man, I hope he does it. But like, is Mark Stone going to stay healthy?
My hamstring is sore. I don't know if I can go.
Yeah. So
I'm laying down my jersey for the betterment of my country. I'm just being sarcastic. But
do you know I haven't even looked. What's the rule? Like, you can bring
all the way up until the tournament starts.
Okay. But let's say a guy gets hurt 2 weeks from now. You don't have to replace him. You can give him the opportunity to get back healthy before then.
Correct.
Okay. So it's kind of what I thought.
There's going to be I bet there's going to be some injuries. And not only that, but if I'm the Oilers, I'm sitting here today going, I am thrilled that Hyman and Bouchard didn't. I mean, look, I want them to have that experience, but this is an 11-day tournament right in the heart of the season where guys are going all out. I'm not going to be sad that my 2 guys are going to be healthy and rested and ready to go for the back stretch of the season when it matters most.
Yeah. Well, one of their guys who's banged up has barely played. Victor Arvidsson made Team Sweden. Like, that was a little surprise to me, to be honest. But he played 18 games last year, has barely played this year. That's like the William Eklund one. You could make a really strong argument he could have made that team.
And will any guys at any point turn this down? So let's say you're no. They've made a bunch of calls now. So now these and frankly, Don Sweeney, I heard his interview on TNT. He said, I'm going to give the guys a few days, but Hockey Canada did make some calls saying, hey, you're kind of next on our list here. It's a great and crushing call to get. Hey, you weren't good enough, but hey, just be ready just in case. It's tough to tell guys, and this is why the NHL and NHLPA wanted to keep these rosters at 23 instead of 25. This is their all-star break. It's not often you get this time during a season to hey, I'm going to go sit on a beach somewhere for 5 days with my family. If someone calls and you've got a trip booked and you're the 6th guy on the list that we weren't even a twinkle in their eye, but there's been so many injuries that we have to call on you, will anyone turn around and say no?
Well, I wonder for a goalie, because if you get called as the goalie, Frank, and you're number 3, like you're like, am I even going to dress? Do I want to go there?
That's the same thing for a forward. You might not. You might be the 13th forward.
Yeah.
You might be the 7th defenseman. Are you giving up your vacation and all that to go sit there and be a spare part? You can't even be the grocery stick on a bench. You don't even get to be in uniform.
No, I wonder if the Olympics being a year away is where guys like, God, I'll suck it up because I want to be in the Olympics. And then
All I can tell you,
saying no might, but I hate, you know what? They better not be petty and biased. Someone says, sorry guys, I booked it with my family. You could have picked me in December. You didn't. That's your choice. Now I'm making my choice. No hard feelings. But
that's personally what I would do. But
yep.
I know they went through the process, and part of their thing for even selecting who's going to be the 13th forward and 7th defenseman. I know talking to the American management group, they were saying a big rule, no pricks. Like, can't have anyone here that's going to pout, that's going to whine. Anyone that might not be in the lineup, they have to be comfortable if they end up being the extra guy, that they're totally fine with that and happy to be there.
Yeah.
There's some science involved in that. There is.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, you don't want a fun sponge who's Eeyore around your locker room, right? That's never good. Hey, Bob, how you doing? Yeah, like that's not good. So
it's not as good as your Donald Duck voice. I'll tell you that.
Oh well. Hey, thanks, buddy. So my son's trying to learn how to do it, but it's not easy because I don't know how to teach him. I don't know how I learned. My dad did it, and I think I just copied him and figured it out one day, and so now my son tries it, but it's let's get to Tyler Yaremchuk. And hi, how you doing?
I keep thinking both times you've done it, I'm like not totally zoned in, as you guys know while we record these. I keep thinking like your internet's cutting out and your voice just speeds up really fast. And I'm like, oh, do I have to mark this? Am I going to have to edit it after? What's going on? Anyways, new edition of Buy or Sell brought to you by Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Get in on things like a busy NHL slate or Thursday night football tonight between the Lions and the Packers. Lions 3.5-point favorites. All right. I got 3 takes for you guys in Buy or Sell. First one, just because this was top of mind watching Leafs and Preds last night. It's getting really ugly for the Preds, and I think the season is borderline unsalvageable right now. But I'm going to say Andrew Brunette survives the season no matter how ugly it gets. Buy or sell, Frank?
I would buy that. I think Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz seem to be in lockstep. And whatever issues that team has, I think it falls on roster construction as opposed to the coach.
Yeah, I think it would be a real bad sign for the GM who went out and everybody anointed, hey, this is the greatest summer the Predators have ever had. And now it's turning into just an absolute debacle. I think there's an immense amount of internal frustration. You can see it on the face of some of the players. Like, Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea, they all came from teams that were competitive here for the last few years. And now, you know what? They're gone. And they thought, okay, we're coming in here. It's Nashville. The fans are great. And this is going to be awesome. And it has gone. I don't think anybody could have predicted it to be this bad right now for the Nashville Predators. Like, thankfully, there's the Chicago Blackhawks in their division, and they'd be dead last. So, I don't think you can fire the coach, but I guess it all depends how ugly it gets. We've seen it before, and the coaching today in the NHL, it's worse than ever. I don't think there's ever been a time where coach security is this low. So today I would agree, but I won't be shocked if in 2 months and they're in the ditch even more, that all of a sudden, it's the coach's fault and he gets he's on the chopping block.
But that's the problem with, there's no accountability upward.
I agree.
It's these guys are used as human shields for poor decisions being made by the management team. And it's just like, hey, let's throw this body on the tarmac and see if we can get everyone off of our scent.
Yeah. Well, because they're not like guys, they started 5-9-2 in their first 16, and now they're 2-4-4. Like it ain't getting any better. Like there's no signs of them working their way up. Like I think they're not making the playoffs. Like they're in a body bag. Season's over.
Yeah, they you mentioned thankfully the Blackhawks exist because they're below them, but Nashville has fewer wins in the same number of games. They're only ahead of the Blackhawks because they've scooped up a couple of more loser points. So not good in Nashville, obviously. Let's stay in
Can
the West.
I mention one thing on Nashville, by the way? I know that Jim Rutherford came out yesterday and said, we're not trading him. We're sticking with him. But man, JT Miller would make a ton of sense in Nashville, wouldn't he? And I don't think I'm not doing any reporting on that, purely spitballing and saying, if I could pluck one player and drop him, airmail him into a situation, JT Miller in Nashville would make a lot of sense.
For who?
I wonder what that deal would look like, though. Like, I would imagine Vancouver's not giving him up unless it's something that helps him right now.
Yeah, well, why do you got to ask the logical for who question? I don't want to hear any nonsense like that. I just want to tell you this guy would really fit.
Yeah, that's fair. Give him some life. All right, next one I got for you guys.
Wait, quickly before, do you think he'd fit there better than the New York Rangers?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I don't look at the Rangers and say, damn, that team needs another center. Do you?
Well,
I look at the Preds and say, man, they don't have any.
Oh,
center.
The Preds. God, yeah, you're right. The Preds are. So I said at the start of the year, man, you don't build championship teams on the wing.
Like if he's healthy, Philip Hedl, perfect 3C. Trocheck, Zibanejad, totally fine with what New York has down the middle. I don't like. I know Miller.
I think Zibanejad and Trocheck are both number 2s. I don't think they have a number 1.
Okay.
Well, the way Zibanejad's playing this year, I think that's definitely true. Okay, going out west, staying in the Pacific. The LA Kings are in the second spot in their division right now, both by points and points percentage. Are you buying or selling on the Kings? Not finishing with home ice, but finishing in one of those top 3 spots in the Pacific. You buying or selling their hot start, Greg's, or hot first quarter of the year?
Yeah, I like LA. I think the Kings are fine. They're doing all of this without Drew Doughty. And I know there's no return date yet on when he comes back, but if he does, that's, if he's, quote, a trade deadline acquisition, that's a pretty good acquisition for a team. So I've liked how they played. They've got enough skill up and down their lineup. And, with Vancouver's injuries right now, the Roenick one, I think LA has a really good chance of staying in the top 3.
Okay. Buying or selling on them and their hot start, sure. Buying or selling on Kings as a cup contender?
Oh,
sell.
See, everyone is a quick sell, right? So what are we even talking about?
No. Top 3. Well, hey, could they win a round? Maybe. As long as they don't play Edmonton. Edmonton's their kryptonite. They got to hope they play Vegas. Honestly, this is not a good matchup.
If we get Kings Oilers in the first round again, everyone should get a refund. That's just not fair. 4 years in a row. We need to spice it up a bit. Let's do something different.
Yeah, the Kings are allowed to call for a redraw.
It's like the guy who, if you make a birdie, they make you putt it again.
If anyone did that to me, I'd punch them in the face.
Yeah. Well, that's the Oilers, or that's really the Kings, I guess. No, sorry, you got to do that over again. You beat us in the first round
when you miss the birdie putt.
Yeah.
All right, next one. I'm going to the futures odds over at Bet365 and the Rocket Richard Trophy race. They got Leon Draisaitl as the favorite at plus 350. Austin Matthews is 5th on the list at plus 800. Now, listen, he's very far back. He's got 8 goals because he was injured, so he's 10 back of the league lead, but he's 8 back of being in the top 5. I'm going to say Austin Matthews works his way back into the top 5 in goals this year. Buy or sell, Frank?
I'll buy that. Yeah, Look, there's a few of these guys that are probably going to slow down a bit, I would think. I'm for sure buying that.
Oh, Craig. God, yeah. Like, the only way he's not top 5 is if he gets hurt again. But Austin Matthews is a guy who scores in bunches quickly and very often. So, although, like, you look at the top 5 guys, Reinhart, Draisaitl, Nylander, Point, and Kaprizov, and Cole Caulfield, I guess they're tied with 16. I still think he could catch Nylander. Like, Braden Point's a pretty good goal scorer, and he's got 16, and he missed 5 games.
6
So,
games. Yeah. So
6.
if that's what I was just going to ask you, what are Braden Point's odds? Because he might be the guy that I would bet on.
Braden Point to lead the league in goals. I just got to pull it back up here. Oh man, he is. He's right behind Matthews. Sorry, 6th on the list at 12-1.
12-1 is pretty juicy odds for Braden Point.
Where's Kaprizov? What are his odds?
He's 3rd on the list at 6-1.
All right. So Reinhardt second, I assume then?
Yeah, it goes Draisaitl, Reinhardt, Kaprizov, Rantanen, Matthews, and then Point.
Yeah, the one thing for Draisaitl is after, like he's been the best power play guy by a mile the last few years. Last 5 years, he had 108 power play goals. The next closest was 74 in Sam Reinhart. Like that's a significant one. He's only got 3 power play goals and he's got 17 already, right? Like that. If their power play ever wakes up, Draisaitl makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Draisaitl is 1st in the league right now in even strength goals with 14. So you can kind of see why he's that odds-on favorite because of that logic. Greg's. All right, boys, there you go. That is a wrap on this week's edition of Buy or Sell, brought to you by Bet365.
Okay, so I'm going to play Tyler for a second. You get to pick on paper the 3 best players in the tournament on Team Canada, which are McDavid, McKinnon, and Makar, or you get to pick the best goal scorer of his generation in Matthews, the reigning Norris Trophy winner in Hughes, the most effective pest in the NHL in Matthew Tkachuk, and Connor Hellebuck, the best goalie of his generation. Which side are you picking?
It's McDavid. Like I go McDavid and I got McDavid and McKinnon and Makar. It's not honestly. They're McDavid and McKinnon and probably 2 best players in the game. So
I said the 3 best players in the tournament.
Yeah. So I would still take. I'll take the 3 best. Even though I know that you got the goaltender in Hellebuck for sure. Tkachuk, Hughes, Matthews. Yeah, they're really good, but I would still take that combination. I'm curious how often, like if I'm John Cooper, am I running McDavid, McKinnon, Makar together after every penalty kill? Right? Get the momentum right back. You'll load up some lines and go McKinnon and McDavid together. And Makar. I want to see it. Come on, John Cooper. Do it. Do it now.
Okay. I know that's enough Four Nations talk for everyone.
Yeah. Let's get to the second half of the pod, brought to you by Fountain Tire. They specialize in tire and auto service, so you don't have to settle for a good deal or good customer service, because at Fountain Tire, they'll give you both. They treat your vehicle like it's their vehicle. And up until December 14th, you can save up to $225 on a set of 4 select tires, including Goodyear. Stop in a Fountain Tire or make an appointment at fountaintire.com. Frank, last night, Trevor Zegras left that game against Vegas, had to get carried off. Didn't look good.
Yeah. Clear left leg injury. Just don't know exactly what it is and the severity of it. But yeah, really not a good look. And I think everyone's, at least I'd be hoping, looking at that and saying, hope it's not an Achilles.
Because, yeah, he got kind of tied up there with Carlson. Like, it didn't look like anything crazy, but then he couldn't get up. And, like, he was in a lot of discomfort, didn't put much weight on it when you see the video when he's walking off the ice. And he was a guy that you had, of course, on your trade targets board for Anaheim. And, like, I watched the Ducks game the other night, and he doesn't look like he's got that flash that he's had before. And a change of scenery, I think, is going to do him a lot of good. And you hope this isn't serious, but if it is, like right away, you saw him signaling to the bench, like he knew he was in discomfort. And, I don't want to play doctor here, but your speculation might be bang on.
I mean, that's what it was, so innocuous. That's the only thing I can think of, is that it looked like his Achilles rolled up on him, but I don't know.
Yeah. So because like it wasn't like nothing twisted or, that's too bad, because the Ducks have actually, the Ducks have been, hey, they're hovering around. It's not great, but they've actually been playing decent lately, right? Hovering around 500, like they're competitive, and, Dostal's playing great, but like like they got a lot of young potential, but man, like young
They're
potential
miserable.
and
They're
proven.
one team that I've said before, they need a coaching change. They're
Yeah,
miserable.
you just think the players aren't enjoying life there.
I don't think anyone likes being in the same room with Greg Cronin. Anyone.
Is he just like, is he what, like super old school, just grump, or like yelling, demanding? What is it that they dislike?
Yeah, he's constantly on him.
No, not good. Hey, what do you make of Mitch Marner's season, and what's that going to do for his free agency?
Has anything changed?
Well, it's on pace for the best season of his career, right? Like he's never scored 100 points, and he's well on pace to be like, he's on pace to score like 120.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, not 120, 115. But.
Okay. So I'm going to just read you a few of these stats because Matt Larkin did this the other day. Tied for 12th in the NHL in points, second in primary assists per 60 at 5-on-5, top 15 in 5-on-5 points per 60, leading the league in takeaways.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but those are actually Mitch Marner's numbers from the 2022-23 season.
Okay.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Okay.
To me, and nothing can change. I don't know how the Leafs could make a decision on extending him until they see him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And even
Fair.
then, it might be too late. Maybe at that point, he just says, as much as I've wanted to be a career-long Maple Leaf, I'm from here. I love it here. Maybe this just isn't working.
Does the fact that he's like, what's his career high? 35, I think, right? And he's on pace for 29, 30 this year. The fact that he's not a goal scorer, does that impact how much you pay him in your eyes? Like,
not to me, because Matthews is your goal scorer. Like, if you're talking about building out a team, I don't look at him and say, man, I'm not going to pay him because he's not a goal scorer. I think he just does so many other things, and he's so well-rounded, and he plays a 200-foot game that I'm not concerned about that. That said, I don't think he deserves a raise. I think he's appropriately paid. I think at $11 million a year, I can't build a case for Mitch Marner to make more than David Pastrnak. And
dude,
yes,
it's funny, man. That's my example. Like goals to me. Hey, goals are still harder to get than assists. We can hey, you can do takeaways and all those things, and they're all important. But at the end of the day, you know what? Goal scoring is a hard skill. And when you look at Matthews and Draisaitl, McDavid and Rantanen and McKinnon and Pastrnak and now Kaprizov and heck, Ovechkin for years and Braden Point, and I'm looking at Mitch Marner from 21 till now when it comes to goal scoring. And I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling, and he's like 41st amongst the NHL scorers in goals. Like, if you're a defenseman, we're talking a different conversation here, but I find it hard to want to pay him more than 11 million when you don't score goals at a high rate. Good goal scorer, but not close to like big time money goal scorer.
Yeah. And look, really good, important player, but I think he's fairly paid at what he makes. I understand that the cap's going up and percentage of cap. And I understand all these it's the same thing with the Mikko Rantanen argument in Colorado. Oh, well, he can get 14 million on the open market. Go ahead and do it. If you want to chase every last dollar, by all means, go ahead. If you want to stay here and be a Colorado Avalanche and have a chance to play with Nathan McKinnon and win a Stanley Cup, then do that. And settle for 12.5 instead of 14. Yeah, I can guarantee you this: the extra $1.5 million a year that you get for 7 years, first off, the ability to offer the 8th year negates that. But if that's the tone you want to set, if that's what you want to chase, it's not going to change your life. No. It just isn't. And we've seen enough to know that by now for the guys that do it. The extra $1.5 million a year for 7 years is 10.5. It's easier to just take the 8th year at 12.5. Dude, you get more money.
I look at the line that the longtime agent Rich Winter said. Don't chase money, chase opportunity.
There you go.
And it makes sense, right?
But Rantanen, same thing. Yes, does the cap going up and percentage of cap does Mikko Rantanen technically deserve to get to 14 million? Probably. Yes, he does. But if I'm the Avs, I'm saying Nathan MacKinnon is my best player. He makes 12.6. You need to get in line under Nathan MacKinnon.
Well, and you can make the argument, okay, if he deserves it, but does he deserve to get paid as much as Leon Draisaitl, who just is going to get 14 in the new cap? You can make the argument he should make more than him.
Why? How?
Well, doesn't score as much. He's not a center.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. How could you make the case that he should get more than Draisaitl?
Well, no, that's my point. So if Draisaitl's getting 14, there's the bar to say, well, hey, Mikko, like on the open market, you say 14,
but that's not open market though. That's the difference. Draisaitl didn't go. If Draisaitl actually went to the open market, he's probably getting 16, 17.
Yeah,
someone is gonna be willing to pay him that much just to acquire him.
Well, yeah, maybe.
That's the argument. It's you're comparing closed market to open market. It's not the same thing.
But
see,
yeah, we always speculate because we don't
thing.
know. We don't know if the guy would get, because there's lots of guys who went to market, Frank, thinking they're going to get the money and they don't get the money.
Would someone pay Mitch Marner 13 or 14 on the open market? Maybe. There's probably a pretty decent chance that would happen.
And not a competitive team.
Right.
They rarely don't have the money.
That's my point and I'm also looking at the rest of the contracts that are in place. Unlike some other guys who were vastly underpaid and then need to take a giant step up, I think Mitch Marner
was overpaid for a few years. Let's call it.
Yeah, I'd say he's been earning 103% of what he should be earning instead of 50 or 75 or 90. He's been slightly overpaid.
100%. Speaking of acquisitions, Mr. Billy Guerin, what do we say, Frank? Don't count out Bill Guerin in the Irsek deal. And there he is. He has landed Jake Middleton, Brock Faber, and now hey, gave up a lot, right? Gave up Damon Hunt, gave up 4 draft picks.
I don't think he gave up a lot. I really don't.
Well, I'm saying a lot on paper. I agree with you. The statistics tell us it's not a lot. I love this trade for Minnesota. I absolutely love it for Minnesota. And you got draft picks down the road. Yeah, you give up a first. Damon Hunt's a good player. And I know people are like, yeah, Jursek's not playing. He can't skate. And I'm like, dude, this guy will be more than fine of a skater. Okay. Big guys like that, he will be more than fine. You watch. In a few years, Blue Jacket fans are going to be like, God, I can't believe we traded him.
That's the way I look at it. I agree. Because let's take the players out of it for 1 second and then we'll add them back in. You've made this point time and time again over many different pods that draft picks are the most overrated thing in the NHL.
Yep.
So if you were to go into a draft and you were to say, I want to acquire the number 6th overall pick from you, and the team replied back and said, okay, like, let's just say, so the Wild are off to an incredible start, right? Let's just say that they end up picking somewhere in the 20 to 22 range. Let's call it 22. Okay.
Yeah.
22nd overall. So you say, all right, I want the number 6 pick from you, and I'll give you 22. I'll give you 45 in the 2027 draft. I'll give you, I don't know,
67,
78th, and I'll give you 105 in the 2026 draft. And I'll throw in a B prospect for you, and if you want to call him that, and Damon Hunt. I'd say Damon Hunt is a serviceable 6-7 in today's NHL. Okay?
Yeah.
You'd say, yeah, I'll do that in a second.
Yeah.
Now,
I agree.
And by the way, that 22nd overall pick, ballparking it, is in this upcoming draft, which by all accounts, everyone agrees is a below average draft class.
Yeah.
So if we take into account the fact that only 19% of all NHL picks across all rounds end up making it to the league. Now, if you're telling me I can have that number 6 overall pick, and I've had 2 additional years of information on him from playing hockey.
Yeah.
I think this is an absolute home run of a deal.
And, oh, by the way, he's 6'6". right? And size matters on the back end. Like I just look, they don't have to rush him in Minnesota. Not that Columbus was
He's
clearly
6'4". I mean, let's not get overexcited here. Yeah.
All right. I thought he was 6'6". Okay,
No, Juracek is 6'4", and he's a pure power play quarterback.
Oh, he's big, man. And I think honestly, now does he probably I remember people said Leon Draisaitl couldn't skate when he was a teenager. And I remember he spent one summer and he just lifted weights. And he got quicker. I don't think he was ever a bad skater, but he got stronger. And it's more so he didn't get quicker. He got strong enough to move his frame around. When you're bigger guys, sometimes it takes longer to actually gain the muscle to move your weight around properly and effectively. And I'm telling you, young D-men, like Frank, this is as old as time in the NHL. Teams give up on young defensemen. We can go through the list of guys.
Not that they gave up. They were forced to move.
Well, in this case, you're right. Fair point. That's very fair. But we've seen lots of other ones. Oh, geez, don't like this guy. Oh, not as much. He's not as good as we want right away. And boom. And there's a laundry list of them that get moved at a young age. And then there's like down the road, they're like, we had that guy. Now we don't have him. And hey, I hope Damon Hunt turns in. But Columbus, the only way this trade really works out for them, Frank, is their amateur scouts are going to have to hit at least one home run with those draft picks. Like a home run, like a guy that you think is going to be a legit player. And that's hard to do.
I think it's going to be almost like quantity versus quality is a tough trade to win every time. But I think when you like the fact that the Wild didn't have to, obviously, like Faber wasn't untouchable, but the fact that they didn't have to give up Marco Rossi, the fact that they didn't have to give up Zeev Bouillon, and they can give up a lower first round pick in a below average draft class. If you start with that as your foundation point, and then the Blue Jackets just want to add more to it to feel like they're winning, like, hey, yeah, you can add as much as you want to this. This is window dressing.
And here's the thing. They're able to, people look and say, geez, they gave up a lot. Even with giving up those 2 picks in 2026, they still have 9 picks, right? They got 1 in each of the 4th and 2 in the 5th and 2 in the 6th still. So
they had picks. Guess what? That was capital from being a third-party broker team in recent deadlines and in years where they had $15-16 million in dead cap space. That's what those type of assets, you make the trade at the time. You're like, oh yeah, we got a 4th round pick for eating up some cap space to help a deal go through. You don't think about it then, but then you add it into a deal, and that's something that helps get it over the finish line. And it's like, okay, yeah, that works.
Like I'm telling you, Bill Guerin, for my money, is one of the best GMs in the league. He makes big moves. He's not afraid to make big moves. Go back to the buyout, right? Like they had some dead cap space. His team's been pretty competitive. That frees up at the end of this year. They've, I like a lot of what he's made because he doesn't just overthink things. He's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a move. And you can tell he worked with Jim Rutherford for some time, who was never afraid to make acquisitions. And he's made some big swings that have been killers. Like the Jake Middleton and Brock Faber trade have been monumental home runs for them.
Yeah, you can just tell he's got marbles.
Yeah. Awesome. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365 and Fountain Tire. Frankie, have a great weekend. Same with Ty. And everybody listening, we will chat with you on Monday.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.